Here, what's your...
That's right.
Joel's been practicing for 3 years. Been practicing that smile. Yeah. You had a shot at something.
Good afternoon or good evening to those of you who are on the East Coast. We welcome you to the X-43A Hyper-X post-flight news conference from NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base in California. For the past almost 58 years of Dryden's history, we've been involved in the world of flight research, separating the real from the imagined problems of atmospheric flight, and setting numerous aeronautical milestones in the process. It looks like we did it again today. Yes. The other day, with me, Joel Sitz, the X-43A project manager at NASA Dryden, who's responsible for the flight research portion of the Hyper-X program. The other day at our pre-flight news conference on Wednesday, Joel brought up the point of the baseball getting into the X-43, barely enough to introduce our other panelists and also to give his comments in regards to today's flight. Thank you.
Just a couple of quick comments. It's part of NASA's mission to inspire the next generation of explorers, and I hope we did that today because I don't know if we can do this too many more times. We need some replacements. It's humbling to be part of this wonderful experience called flight research. It's inspiring to see what industry and NASA can do together in these high-risk endeavors. And ATK, Gassel, Boeing, thanks for a great airplane. It worked wonderfully today. Orbital Sciences, thanks for the ride. It was fun all the way to Mach 7. And as Alan said, today we were successful in separating not only the launch vehicle from the research vehicle, but the real from the imagined. So with that, I want to introduce Brad Neal, who's our test conductor today, and Griff Porpenine, who is the chief engineer, and Larry Huber, who is our hypersonic geologist. And just in case there's any questions, we did find water. I'll turn it over to Brad.
Well, today's operation went off pretty much without a hitch. As you saw, we were a little bit behind timeline this morning, but nothing that we didn't overcome. You know, we've been rehearsing this for 3 years now again, and it showed today. This was an operation that you always want the boring one to be last, and I think we had that today, which speaks marvelously to the team of individuals that we had not only preparing the vehicle for flight, but those in the control room watching the vehicle and being ready for the operation. So ultimately we went off without a hitch. The one thing that could have bitten us, one of the technicians helped us out with, which is a B-52 fuel issue, and Gary Beard stepped up to the plate and gave us some insight onto that really helped us to be able to succeed today. So overall, from my standpoint, it's a big operation. We've been working on this for a lot of years, and this last week we've been working on it around the clock. And we always like to have this kind of finale to those kind of operations. Great.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about the events that occurred after we dropped off from the B-52. And before I begin, though, let me send out also my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to everybody that was a part of this, industry and NASA alike. The air crew that got us out there handled some dicey situations and did a great job to Orbital getting us there, and ATK put together an awesome vehicle. Of course, the Langley folks that have been with us for a long, long time, you guys finally have some data. And certainly happy to deliver it. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful day. It was certainly exciting, and as Brad said, it's a great way to end. anything they've done, and particularly the families that supported us. A lot of sacrifices have been made, a lot of long weekends and evenings, so thank you to everybody. With that, just a kind of a brief overview of what we know so far. And we do know we had a successful drop from the B-52, obviously. And I was ticking down through all of the things that just went great with the boost, and certainly Mike and Phil have know it better than any of us. So I'll jump right to the end there. Although we did go through our transonic problem that we had on flight 1 without a hitch. The next first that we had to sweat out was a negative pushover. I believe that's the first time a Pegasus has ever been asked to do that, and it did it. We had motor burnout, and by the way, the motor had 3,300 pounds of offload, and there was a little bit of question if it was going to ignite properly. No problem whatsoever. So we scooted on out to Mach 7. Looks like we hit all of our separation conditions, I believe, within 1 sigma. So just an outstanding job. Right, if you'd notice, Brad was off the hook when we dropped from the B-52. These guys started to breathe again when we separated. On the RV side, started to really sweat it, and probably some of the sweetest words I heard were from our lead GNC, Kathy Ballman. She said, "RV stable." And we went through our sequence wonderfully. Separated, looks like in a very nominal fashion. As you're aware of, that was a first as well. I don't believe a vehicle has ever been separated at Mach 7, a Q of 1,000, at least no vehicle that we've ever heard of, and that was certainly a huge question in our mind and a very high-risk activity, and we went through it just great. The RV stabilized. We were able to open the cowl door, which is the protective device that covers the engine during boost. The inlet to the scramjet appears to start nominally. Fuel came on. We had silane delivered to the combustor. It looked like we had good combustion. Transition to hydrogen-fueled combustion, and all of that's, of course, being intensely studied and will be intensely studied over the next weeks, months, and probably years. But the preliminary assessment we'll get to with the star of the show here in a minute. After that, though, we did get the cowl closed, and we were able to fly this vehicle all the way down to splash and acquire data, so it really hung in there. And all the systems on board appear to have performed nominally. Not much else we can say. We were tracking the trajectory right on the numbers all the way through. Looks like we hit it right down the middle. And with that, turn it over to Larry, who's really him and his team and all the scramjet people, the reason why we're here.
Thank you, Griff. It's been an outstanding, record-breaking day. It really has. Our engine experiment was very nominal, very much like we expected to see based on our analyses, our ground test data that we got in wind tunnels. As Griff said, we did get proper inlet start, and we had good ignition and combustion all the way from fuel lean to fuel rich, back to fuel lean. We basically were, based on the preliminary data, and here's the key thing, based on the preliminary data that we have, we did achieve positive acceleration while we were climbing. We had outstanding vehicle control throughout the entire scramjet portion of the experiment. To put this in perspective, a little over 100 years ago, a couple of guys from Ohio flew for 120 feet in the first controlled powered flight. Today, we did something very similar in the same amount of time, but our vehicle, under air breathing power, went over 15 miles. All in all, a very nominal, very successful, first ever airframe integrated scramjet engine experiment. We can claim an air breathing powered record today, no doubt about it. And bottom line is, it's time to roll up our sleeves and start looking at some data. Thanks you all.
At this time, we'll entertain questions from reporters here at NASA Dryden, and some of these I'm going to defer directly to Joel Sitz, who may want to transfer them to our panelists there. A few minor ground rules. After being recognized, please identify yourself and the media organization that you represent. And since this news conference is being telecast on NASA television, we ask that you wait until a microphone reaches your position before asking your questions. And we also ask that you initially limit yourself to 2 questions so that all reporters can have a chance to be heard and ask their questions.
ACLU and National Public Radio. 2 questions. What was the actual X-43 flight altitude for the scramjet burn? Question 2, what was the top speed imparted on the vehicle by the scramjet?
To the best of my knowledge, we were at a stable roughly 95,000 feet. Not verified yet, preliminary data. Again, we'll have to look at that. That was our target condition. Maximum speed, slightly over Mach 7 is what I can tell you. That's all I can say.
And some others.
And please open tear and post engine burn tear on the order of 20 seconds. We had just over 11 seconds of fuel on time.
Yeah, just a generic question about, for the layman out there, today's flight, what does this mean for advancement of this new jet technology?
What we demonstrated today is something that we've been working on in the ground for over 40 years. And what we basically can say is that we demonstrated that the technology that was developed on the ground works. Flight is reality.
Thank you. Any further questions from other media here? Take a chance. Jim. And wait till the audience.
Okay, with the success with the flight, Jim Bennett, Clear Channel Television International. With the successful flight, what parallels can you draw with the successful Mars programs? The second question, how will this integrate in with any space programs of the future?
Well, I'll take a shot at it. Both programs are obviously high risk, and there's a lot of firsts in both programs. They're excited about the data that they've uncovered on the surface of Mars. We're extremely excited about the data we uncovered today at Mach 7 inside the scramjet. And it is the ramjet scramjet is the holy grail of aeronautics in my mind. If you go from ground to space, you need to use a ramjet scramjet if you're going to do it the most efficient way you can. And so I think this technology will find its way into future vehicles and integrate nicely.
Just to follow up on the access to space and NASA's current Moon Mars mission. As Joel says, we have to leave the atmosphere. In the most efficient and effective way, I think we can say now, with little doubt, is to do that to a large extent under air-breathing power. And I think that's where it holds its place.